Hello, my YouTube family. I hope you guys are doing well and you are ready for part two of my mental health journey. So, in the previous video, I'm really not going to go too deep with, everything that happened because if you really want to listen, then you would go back to that video and I'll post it below in the description box. Or you can just go through my channel and find the video. So basically this is going to be a part two. Part one, I've discussed basically what led up to me having basically the downfall of my mental health, and part two is going to be more so about the research and everything that I went through. So let's go ahead and get started. So I told you guys that during the process of me being downhill, I was trying to find any and everything to help heal me, regardless if it was spiritual, mentally, physically, whatever the case may be. I was trying to find the best ways to heal me. It was definitely a process, but in that process, I've met some amazing people and I got a lot of great information during that process. So I do apologize about that. So, the first time I did research, this was before the third panic attack, as I explained in the previous video. I was just basically doing some research basically on the symptoms and things like that. And when you go to Google and you type in things and they tell you all of the worst things, like basically you're dying, you could possibly have cancer and things like that. And, not to say that some of those things aren't true, and I don't want to, hurt anybody's feelings or single anybody out by my comments. But in this situation, that just wasn't the case. And me knowing how I am, how my brain works, I'm thinking of the worst case scenario. So on top of me already having panic attacks from everything that I'm going through, me doing this research was kind of like triggering for me as well, especially looking at certain things, and they're like, well, you have cancer, well, you have lymphoma disease, you have this, you have that. And I'm just like, okay, whatever. So I took a break and I kind of went into the spiritual side. As I told you guys, I went to a metaphysics store, or a store that basically sells sage, candles, things like that, herbs. And the first place I went to, someone was basically telling me that I could have had a spell on me, and I'm like, oh my gosh, not this again. And we can talk about that in a different story. Listen, y'all, I have a whole bunch of stories, but right now we're just gonna talk about this one. And I'm like, oh my God, not this again. I really wasn't feeling how I was before. So I don't really think that this is that. I just honestly think that this could possibly be something else. So she basically reminded me of certain things, such as like lavender, frankincense, and myrrh, and things like that. And at the time, I just took the candle, and I was just lighting candles. Um, and as I stated, I was very crippled, so I couldn't really like go out as much. So whenever I did, it was basically a purpose. It was the main reason. I was going in somewhere, getting what I can get, and leaving out, because as I stated, I couldn't really stand for long periods of times, or at least 5 minutes, without getting out of breath or feeling like I'm weak. So I did that. And as I stated, thanks to my support system, my mom, she was also doing research with the stones and things like that. So she went and she bought this like really huge book of like different stones and what they're used for and all of these things like that. And she actually went out to a store and she brought me back a stone. And she was just like, well, this person said that, this stone would be okay for you for the moment. So, let's just use this stone and see how that works. For some reason, that stone just wasn't for me. And I honestly think more of the reason was so, um, now knowing what I know now, more so the reason was because I didn't pick the stone out. The stone didn't know me. The stone didn't feel my energy. The stone didn't call me. Someone else went to pick the stone up for me. And I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with that, but if you are, purchase stones as gifts and things like that, then you cleanse them, with your own energy. But at that time, it's just like I couldn't. And I don't think that my mom would do anything bad to me. I definitely don't believe that. But at the time, it just was not working for me. So I did some more research and I started to learn about things that you are basically feeding yourself. This is when I started to learn about different nutrients in your body and things like that, and how, things could happen this way. And if you don't eat this, or, if you don't have basically a balance of nutrients in your body, or just have a balance of everything in life, then it can cause a problem. So, in the process of me doing that research, I finally went ahead and I contacted a therapist from one of the lists that I was given at the hospital. So, happened, I wanted to find a therapist that was more so like my age, someone possibly older, someone of my color, because I feel as though, at the time that person could basically help me. When I got there, I was greeted, and the place was amazing. The place was really, really beautiful. But I was greeted very, very nicely. I was reading through different like pamphlets and things like that. And they made me feel at home, even though the state that I was in, you guys, I was just like in a devastating state. Like, I was afraid to be outside. I didn't want anyone looking at me. Just how I dressed at the time. It just was not okay for me. I was just not all right with everything that was going on, how I was like handling myself. So I really didn't feel like myself. So at the time when I seen my actual therapist, even though, everyone else was really nice, when I seen her and I got to know her, she was actually a younger woman. She was younger than me. Honestly, I want to say she was about 23, 24. Um, geez, I'm wrong. She was probably like just, I'm not sure whatever the case may have been, or how, she gets what she gets. At the time, it was just like, okay, she is not what I thought that she would be, but I need to take this and I need to do whatever it is that I have to do. So I really didn't feel a need to not have her as a therapist, because she didn't do anything personally to me. I really didn't know her. As far as I know, she listened to me. And not only did she listen to me, she responded. She gave me great coping mechanisms and things like that. She gave me great ideas to help me at a certain time when I'm feeling a certain way. So basically what she did was help me process things without panicking, because in that moment, as I stated, with the third panic attack, I kind of grabbed them by the balls, and I was just like, look, you're not going to do this to me. I'm not going to run. I'm going to face you head on. But with her, she was telling me small things like, if you feel as though you're having a panic attack, grab a couple of ice cubes and put them in your hand. Let the air down, and let the window up, let your car window down, and just let the air come in, cool air. Just try to keep it cool. Whatever it is, it's just like you gotta keep your mind off of that. Now I know what I know now. She was basically telling me that I had to rewire my brain when I feel myself going through certain feelings or emotions. I had to immediately find something else to get me to focus on something else, because if not, my brain is going to say, oh, you can't do this. Oh, you're less than this, or this, that, and the third. And it's like, no, we're not doing this. We can't do that. So she was giving me awesome coping mechanisms. Not only that, after a certain amount of visits that I did, I wind up being able to go see the person who provides the meds. And at that time in my mindset, I'm like, okay, when my mom gave me those meds from the dispensary, or the marijuana from the dispensary, I was absolutely fine. So now here's my chance to be able to get it from the dispensary, and I won't have to take pills and things like that, because the whole purpose of this clinic, it was basically like wellness, basically doing things naturally, not really going with a lot of the meds and things like that they were giving out. It was more of a like natural vegan like therapist, or just wellness center, if that's the best way that I can describe it for you guys. So When I finally went to her to get the meds, I started explaining to her my story, and she was just telling me, like, look, I honestly don't believe that you need any meds. And this is where I got the saying from. I got the saying from her. Like, you have literally been through so much in this year. And unfortunately, it's up to us to pay attention to things and to learn them. And at this time, it's like you're in a learning process, but you could possibly just be going through a lot right now. And maybe just time will heal things for you. This too shall pass, because pressure busts pipes. And you don't want to hold on to anything that doesn't serve you, or you don't want to hold on to any emotions that doesn't serve you, because this is the outcome of it. This is the outcome. Not being, now that I know what I know now, not being able to control my ego, control my emotions, control my anger, or control me at all, control how I reacted to others, control how I let others into my life. If I didn't take control of my life, or if I would have never taken control of my life, I don't know where I would be now. So in a sense, I'm very, very grateful for her, and for her telling me, like, well, her confirming to me that I really don't need the meds, because as I stated in the previous video, I kept telling myself, like, look, you don't need these meds. What do you need these for? These are not helping you. These are hindering you. And this situation can lead on to something else, which could lead on to something else, which could lead on to more. And then now you're having health problems, all because you were having anxiety and this, that, and the third. And I'm just like, I'm not trying to down others who are on these type of meds, because they literally work for some people. So I'm not trying to down it. So please don't be in my comments saying, don't down these meds, because they actually work. They actually help me. In a sense, in one way, they help me as well. But I understood that my situation was a little bit more deeper. Notice I said my situation. My situation was a little bit different, and it was a little more deeper for me in my mindset. I feel as though this is actually something that I had to go through in order for me to be the person that I am. Because if I didn't, I think my path would be something different, or something that the universe doesn't want for me. But here I am. So she basically told me that she would give me something, but she would put me on the various littlest dosage that she could put me on. And she told me to continue to do those coping mechanisms and things like that my therapist and all of that had went over with me. And I was just like, cool. But she also sat me down and she's like, look, I know, we're not supposed to talk about our clients to each other and things like that. And she was like, but I just want you to know that Taylor, oh, I'm so sorry, I did not mean to say her name, but she is really inspired by you in some sort of way. It was like my therapist and me, we were basically helping each other out in a sense. I was actually teaching her things. The more research that I did, the more that I was able to calm myself and figure things out. It was like I was able to focus again, especially with the help of our coping mechanisms. I had to learn that, basically what I said, I had to take control of myself. I had to control myself. If not, then I had all of these other things controlling me. And that was the result of it. So I was very, very grateful to hear that. Not only that, I also talked to them about some of the other research that I've done as far as like the different foods and the lack of nutrients that a lot of us could be having. And at that time, that's when I learned that vitamin D was a big, 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 big deal, especially in the Black community. Those of us who are lacking in vitamin D, lacking that sunlight, especially the natural sunlight, that are lacking in those areas, there's a lot of mental health issues. There's a lot of as far as Black women, there's a lot of symptoms or reoccurring symptoms of bacteria vaginosis. There's other issues such as your thyroids and things like that, just from not really getting the sun or just that natural nutrient or natural supplement that we usually get from the earth. From my Facebook post and my Instagram post that I posted possibly about a week ago, I told you guys that I'm never for the one that's going to tell someone how to eat or what to eat. And I'm going to get back on topic after I say this. I'm not for one that's going to tell someone what not to eat, how to eat, whatever the case may be. But understand that everything that we're eating now is not natural. Most of everything that we're eating is GMO. So there is no actual substance for the food other than for it to not make you feel hungry anymore. It's like you can't, I'm not saying that you can't eat an apple and it won't. What I'm saying is the apple that was grown off a grandma's tree back then today doesn't have the same nutrients. A lot of things are GMO, and if you don't know what that is, and that's a whole nother story, and I'm gonna need you guys to Google that and get up on game with that. Understand that everything that we're eating is not natural, it's not organic. They're slapping labels on things, and it's not that. They're lacking nutrients, they're lacking vitamins, and that was another issue that was wrong with me. That's where I started on the ladder. I just stayed there. That's what I mean when I said I did research. I'm sorry, you guys. That's what I mean when I said I did research. I stayed in that bracket or that bar just for that small amount of time, and I learned about how the lack of vitamin D can affect us in so many different ways. And that point, I was just like, I'm onto something. So I was going to the therapist and things like that. I also told them about the vitamin D, and just so happens she winds up doing her research on her own. And the next time that I came, we actually did our own little like brainstorming on that. So that was actually like a good thing. And she was talking about how she was going to try to incorporate that in most of her clients' diets and things like that, or try to make that, a main point of their clients' diet. It's what you eat, it's what you do, it's basically what you're feeding your mind, not only your gut, but what you're feeding your mind. So I was going to therapy, and I also have a favorite place that I go to. This is a flea market. For most of you who do live in Maryland, you know what I'm talking about. And I like to go there. And around the time, there was this young man there, and I'll never forget him. He was very, very handsome and very, very kind, and very gentle with me. Very, very gentle. I believe he's seen the dis-ease on my face. He's seen that I wasn't as calm, as I should be, because around this time I was just really, I want to say, trying to step back outside. I would definitely say that. I was definitely trying to, because as I stated, that rebel in me, I'm just like, I can't sit still. I'm not going to sit back and just let my life crumble. Like, I can't do this. So I would literally force myself to go out. So he seen the disease in me. And as I stated, for some of you who don't know, with the panic attacks and the anxiety, PTSD, it was like I didn't want people behind me. I didn't like being in like areas with multiple people or situations that I literally could not control at the time. So I would just panic. I would think of the worst case scenarios, and that was just that. So stepping back out there, I'm going there. As I stated, he was very calm, very gentle, very easy with me. And he started telling me about different nutrients and different herbs and things like that that can heal me, because not only was I going through this, he was going through this, and this made me feel so much better, so that it added more meaning to his calmness and his gentleness with me, because he understood. So it was like it was more so of a different vibe, more so of a helpful, like, I want to help you because this worked for me, and I know what you're going through, and I don't want anyone to experience that, not even my worst enemy. I wouldn't want anyone to experience that. So I really appreciate him for that. So the things that he gave me, he told me about sea moss. A lot of you probably know about sea moss and the benefits for sea moss, but at the time, I personally felt like that did not help me. Um, he told me about the sea moss, and then he told me about these powders or these herbs that they grind down into like powder substance. And one of them was called ashwagandha. Ashwagandha, all I had to do was boil a hot pot of water on the stove, and then I would grab a cup and I would put there was like a small little like capsule or thing, something like that, and I would dip it inside of the powder and just pour it inside the water and then just mix it up like it was tea. And that made my nights much better. I mean, like 100% better. My nights were my nights were rough, you guys. I could not sleep at night. I had insomnia. As I told you, I was having panic attacks like every 5 hours. So I would literally try to watch a movie and I just couldn't keep my mind off of feeling like I was not in control of my body. So let me be clear with that, because I don't want anyone to think that I was just out here hearing voices, because that's definitely not it. Um, More so self-sabotaging thoughts is what I was hearing. More so fear. I was in the fight or flight mode. It was like I got into that mode with the panic attacks, and that was the mode that I stayed in. That was the energy that my body kept. That was the energy that my body felt the most calm. Or for those of you who might not understand, for those of you who do understand, it made it was like my spirit telling me, like, now is the time. It's like, you're going to listen to me. You're out of control. We've been listening to you on airplane mode this whole time, and it has not gotten us anywhere. So now is the time for me to step in and let you know, if you don't get this together, it's not going to get better for you. It's only going to get worse. So it was my spirit, my soul telling me, like, halt. You've added way too much on you. You're doing way too much. You're not eating properly. You're not being mindful. You're not protecting yourself. You're not valuing yourself at all. So here is the sit down. And if you don't want to sit down, when I ask you, it's like I'm going to make you sit down. And that's exactly what my spirit did. I was just in shock mode and fear. That's what I felt, and it was just not okay with me. So that the herbal teas helped me amazingly. There was also a daytime powder that he gave me. It was really like white. I forgot what it's called, but I will let you guys know. You can just check on a post, or I'll try to put that down below in the description box. I also remember that yesterday I was not able to find a picture of literally how my arms were when I was going through the panic attacks or the anxiety attacks. I honestly don't want to offend anyone, but I basically look like a paraplegic. My hands were just like locked up. My arms were locked up like towards my chest, and it was just not okay. So I didn't want to put that picture up there because I didn't want anyone to feel offended. But if you do relate, please, please understand that you're not alone. You're not alone. You can get through this. You can do this. So the powdery tea I took during the daytime, and it calmed me. I didn't feel slow. I didn't feel like my words were slurred. I didn't feel behind. Like, I was able to function. I was able to be okay and at least be mindful, or just, cope in that moment, certain moments. So the daytime tea did wonders for me. At that time, I found myself, when I started taking it over a 2 week span, I found myself getting up and being a little bit more hyper as far as like energy. I had the ability to want to do something, not just sit around. It kind of like fueled me just a little bit more. It's like, okay, you're scratching the surface, but we're not really 100% healthy, so we're just going to keep moving forward. We're going to keep pushing forward. So I still use the daytime powder tea, and I still use the nighttime powder tea. The ashwagandha tea just immediately put me to sleep. So if you guys are going through insomnia or anything like this, I would definitely suggest you guys to get ashwagandha. It's amazing. And during the process, I also learned that turkey is great for those who have anxiety. This is another reason why during Thanksgiving we eat and then we get itis, or we just get very sleepy and just null and void and just go to sleep, or whatever the case may be. Turkey has that I don't want to say, whatever it is, I'll figure it. I'll give you guys the best answer, but it has not an incentive, but it has that chemical in it that calms you. It's very, very good for anxiety. So that helped me. And I'm still at home. I'm still doing research. And I'm like, okay, I feel okay. But I was still feeling like I could not stand for long periods of times. I was still out of breath. I was still not okay. I was still just managing, but I wasn't okay. And I was not okay with settling for just being I. So I'm doing more research. I'm doing more research. And I see this group, and they're talking about um, yeast. They're talking about bacteria. They're talking about how important it is for your gut to be clear of those things, because your gut is 95%. Your gut creates 95% of the serotonin that goes to your brain. So your gut is 90% of your brain. Whatever you're feeding your gut is going to your brain, and this is how you're thinking. This is how you're going to function throughout the day, on top of all of those traumas and all of those things that you already have to face already throughout life. So I'm learning about these things, and the one thing that stood out to me the most was a diagnosis called Candida. Now, they always say that you won't find Candida in African Americans as high as you do in any other ethnicities, but I don't believe that. I believe that we all suffer from an inch or an ounce of Candida, especially with how foods are made. Everything is high fructose now. Everything has sugar in it. Everything has something in it. So that sugar creates an over what I really want to say, it just creates an over production of yeast in your guts. So it's like at this point now you're just basically rising dough in your stomach. You're wondering why your stomach is getting big. You're wondering why you're getting a lot of weight. You're feeling a lot of heavy, or you're feeling heavy. It's just like you're basically growing yeast in your gut, and it's causing an off balance and hormone balance in your body and all of those things. So with that being said, I wound up telling someone in the group about everything that I was going through, and they were just like, well, maybe you should try some things, try to speak with a doctor or something about the situation. She also told me that one of her doctors, who has a regular PhD or MD, they would not prescribe her any type of medicine that would basically help for that, because they basically did not believe in that. And I'm like, wow, that's crazy. So I'm not even going to try any doctor of mine, because when I went to the doctor, my doctor didn't even know, couldn't even tell me at the time that I had anxiety, PTSD, or I was having panic attacks. My doctor had no idea. Only thing my doctor did was put me on some meds to slow me down and just get me out the door. And I just felt like that was really messed up. So her telling me this, I'm like, it sounds kind of like my story. So she's like, you have to find someone who's willing to go get your blood work done, or someone who's able to write you some type of form or something to get your blood work done, or get the money together to go to a lab and get your blood work done. And labs are very expensive. They're very, very expensive. So, especially if your insurance is not paying half, or especially if your insurance just isn't paying anything towards it. So I took that information and I took that to heart, and I started to do my research, and I'm like, these labs are way expensive. I'm not going to be able to do it this way. I have to find some other way if I can find a doctor. Now, I can pay copay for a doctor. That's not an issue, but I really want to do this the right way, and I want to see what's wrong with me. So me being me, I find a doctor, and he's a holistic doctor, all natural. Not really into any process-based supplements or vitamins and things like that that you could purchase at the GNC. He was very, very straight to the point, but he was very amazed by me. Not only was he amazed by me, he was very impressed as well. And this is exactly what he told me. Like, I've never seen someone come to the doctors with their own information, like their own trials and errors that they've done to themselves, their own diagnosis. Because at some point I'm just like, listen, I've done my research. I'm not trying to hear this. I'm not trying to hear that. I think I know what's wrong with me, and this is the issue. So I'm telling him this. I'm telling him that. And he's looking at my fingernails, and he's looking at my toenails, and he's trying to see basically what's wrong. Because something about holistic doctors, their way of diagnosing you is very different. And just so happened that, oh, geez, I do apologize about that. I hope I don't get copyrighted. But that was my phone. But he was more so like listening to me. He was more concerned. He trusted my word more than anything. But what I was trying to get to is, in the process of me seeing him, he had a pamphlet that I had to fill out, and he was basically asking me certain things that I've never seen doctors ask. He asked me, smelling like the clothes dryer or smelling detergents, does it take your breath away? He was just asking me crazy things like, do you feel lethargic, and whatever it was. It's just like, it was confirmation for me. I knew that this was a place. I knew that he would care. I knew that it will be totally different from the other experiences that I've had with this issue. So we're talking. As I said, he's looking at my toenails, he's looking at my fingernails, and he's like, you look perfectly fine, but sometimes these issues are not visible. It's more of an internal thing than anything. So he never took my word as if he didn't believe me. Anything that I asked him, he did it. And he's like, well, okay, so you've done this and you've done that. There's so many ways that we can go, but where would you like to go? How would you like to do this? And I told him immediately, I wanted to get my blood work done. I need to see what I'm lacking in. Because not only as time went by, you guys, not only did I know about the vitamin D, I went to go learn about different vitamins in the body and how the lack of these vitamins can cause you certain symptoms or can cause different adversities within yourself. I had to fully go into research and understand what the body needs, how the body works. I literally dissected myself. I had to, because I was not settling for that. I was not settling for that. So I told him immediately that I just wanted to get my blood work done. And I needed to do this fast because for some reason at the time I just was very impatient. However the case may be, he made me a lab report or a lab slip reference, and within the next day or the day after the next, I want to say I was in there getting my lab work done. My lab papers came back within about 24 to 48 hours, and we knew right then and there what my results were. So he was like, look, I don't want to tell you this information over the phone. Let's just go ahead and get you in, and we're going to talk about the next steps, and we're going to talk about what plan or which steps you would like to take, what steps you feel as though is most comfortable for you. So we go in, and I'm going over my labs and my reports. I was lacking in vitamin D. I was lacking in iron. I did have, my levels for Candida were a little bit over what I should have been. Yeah, it was definitely a little bit over from what I should have been. But I did leave out a part, you guys. In that process of me having anxiety and things like that, meeting that younger guy at the flea market, taking the sea moss, taking the herbs, those were also like kind of helping me. And that was kind of like, as I said, was getting me back into the swing of things, because the more I took those herbs, they were giving me nutrients where I was lacking. Not only that, for some reason, I I changed my I don't want to say I changed my diet. What I actually did was I stopped eating the breads. I stopped eating the breads because at first they were saying that I had indigestion. And I'm like, no, this is the indigestion. It's like I'm having, my heart is palpitating. Like I just feel weird. This is not right. So they would try to give me like this really thick white liquid and put it down my throat, and it just still wouldn't take it away. But long story short, it just wasn't that. But I'm not going to say it wasn't that. So let me not say that. It wasn't that. It was a small part of that. So I already took breads out of my eating habits. Not only that, as I said, I was taking the teas, the daytime and the nighttime teas. And not only was I taking those, I also got intrigued with certain things. So doing that research with my body, I was already eliminating certain things out of my body before I went to him to do research. I mean, before I went to him for some type of help, or before I went to him for him to give me the blood work or the lab work. So I was lacking in those things. My Candida level was a bit high. And it could have possibly been higher than that. And this is what he was telling me. Like, it could have possibly been higher than this. But you've already told me that you've been taking some things out. So we're going to look at something else. So it was something else about my adrenaline. My adrenaline, they were not up. They weren't normal. They were supposed to be at a certain level, but they weren't normal. You could tell that it was moving really slow. Not only that, my serotonin levels were low as well. But he also explained to me that with the low level of serotonin, that could also have adversities or, troubles with your adrenaline trying to get those things, or trying to get the serotonin released into your adrenal so that you can, everything could be fine, or you could be happy, or, that whatever it was messing up my mental. I was very depressed and things like that. So he went on to tell me that he really doesn't want to diagnose me with Candida. What he's going to do is try to treat me for all of the nutrients that I was lacking in, and to see if this would work. So I was given a liquid vitamin D. I was also given a probiotic pill. These were live probiotics. I had to put them inside of like the refrigerator and things like that. Keep them with like ice because you wanted to keep them alive. You didn't want to kill them, or whatever the case may be. I did not get iron supplements around that time, but he did place me on a diet, and he believed that I would get those iron supplements from that diet. I was able to eat meat as long as it was lean. No sugars, no starches. My noodles, and at the time I could not eat wheat, as I stated. No sugars, no starches. So which meant that I couldn't eat regular rice or wheat rice, brown rice. I couldn't eat brown noodles, or I just couldn't eat noodles. I wound up having to substitute those things for like vegetables. So like with my rice, I would have to substitute that for like cauliflower rice, or my noodles, I would have to substitute that for zucchini noodles or squash noodles and things like that. And those things were really amazing. I've started getting in the kitchen a little more. I started making avocado dips and all these different type of healthy things that I could find that brought me life, that brought me excitement. I started to do those things. So not only did I have to incorporate a whole new way of eating, I couldn't drink sodas. I couldn't drink juices. I only could drink alkaline waters, and I could only drink like coconut water or just herbal teas. And it was only certain herbal teas. The sugars, I couldn't use white sugar. I had to use a different sugar. Butters were different. I had to use gluten-free butter. And it was a bit expensive, but it was definitely worth it. Cooking oils I had to change. It was a lot. I had to do a 360 of everything. I'm thinking, okay, I could just buy peanuts from the store. No, I had to buy raw organic peanuts with no salt. None of that stuff on there. And I could only eat like cashews, chocolates. I could only have dark chocolate. I couldn't really have candy, chips. The only chips I really could eat that I did implement, and I want to say this was probably about after, I was eating kettle chips. I feel as though they're the most healthiest ones out there. But I started eating kettle chips, and I would eat like kale chips and things like that. And just the kale chips just was not for me. But I started making my own egg rolls. I started having breakfast. And for those of you who know me, I don't like breakfast. I'm not a breakfast girl, but I will eat an omelet. I started eating omelets with like packed with like onions, mushrooms, green peppers. Like it was amazing. The cheeses, I could only eat ricotta cheese. I could only eat, I want to say Swiss cheese. But yeah, I had to do a 360. And not only did I have to do that, the first 30 days of my detox, I had to take a pill. And I don't want to say this the wrong way, but it was like dufluxin, something like that. But it's basically for like if a woman gets yeast infection. I want to say that one of them was called like fluconase, something. I'm not sure. But as I stated, I'm not a doctor. So, um, I had to take those pills, but I know whatever pills they were the pills that, you would get prescribed if a woman has a yeast infection. So, I had to take those for about 30 days. And that was another devastating moment for me because I was feeling a little better, but my body was going through changes. My body was going through a lot, especially going through. So, a lot of you are going to ask me what type of diet I went on. I went on the keto diet. So, a lot of you know when you're going on a keto diet and that sugar comes out of your body, those mood swings, all of that, like I literally felt more lethargic than what I felt having the anxiety and that back to back. And also I want you guys to know when I started taking those, my anxiety was going away. I was having less anxiety attacks, less panic attacks throughout the day. I told you I was having them about every 5 minutes, but this time they were pretty good. I would possibly have, like, for me a good day would be about like 5 on a good day. Like that would be a good day for me. 10 is a good day for me. Like um but I started having them less and less. I started going outside more. I started, taking that chair out and sitting on the porch and getting that sunlight. I started going out, like, as far as like to the park and trying to get some extra vitamin D and just sit and be mindful and try to at least learn to enjoy a sunset. I wasn't feeling clouded and panicky all the time, because all the time this is what you feel, panicky, like, oh my god, I can't fix this, oh my god, I can't do this, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god. And that's just the state that you're in, constant fear, constant flight mode, like 24/7, and that was just not okay. So anyway, those pills, especially just the detoxing part, that was that was a time for me. As I stated, I felt lethargic. I was having withdrawals. I wanted sugar, 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 sugar so bad. I wanted cakes. I wanted pies. I wanted sodas. I wanted it all. Like, it was nothing that you could tell me. Like, and I was not really trying to hear it. Like, this is what I want. I would be snappy a little bit. Just mood swings, just going through the process. Not only that, physically, I started to get like this itchy feeling all over my body. And this was taken from taking the pills. I started to get like this really itchy feeling all over my body. And I would scratch And then later on, when I would go to scratch, it was like this burning sensation. And I'm like, why is my body burning? Why am I getting a rash? And I never knew that those of you who are on the keto diet, or some of you who are on keto, you do experience the rash. Not only was I on the keto diet, I was also given that one med to help speed up the process of getting the yeast or the fungal bacteria, whatever it was, out of my gut. So I broke out in a rash. It was burning, and I had to stop itching. I had to stop scratching to the best of my abilities. I had to buy aloe butter. Oh my gosh, that was like the most amazingest thing to me ever. If it was like such a great relief. I had to take chamomile baths. I'm sorry, yeah, chamomile baths, and I had to take like oatmeal baths. It was just so much, and I'm just like, I just went through one thing. When am I going to get my relief? Why do I have to keep going through this? All right. As I'm putting the aloe butter all over my body, I'm thinking, okay, it's just going to heal and go away. No, honey. Then the fucking skin starts to peel. Lord, take me now. I'm like, Lord, I'm going through all of this right now. I'm not worried about no relationship. But if this is the skin that you're going to give my husband, like, no, if this is the skin that you want me to present to my husband, like, no, I'm not. This is a no. Like, what's in this medicine? I thought that I was going the right path. I'm not having as much anxiety attacks and all of that anymore. I'm feeling a lot better. I feel like I can go out and do some things. But why is my skin peeling? I don't like this. And no matter, especially before it started peeling, like nothing could touch my skin. It would burn. It would just burn so bad. And I'm just like, I don't know what this is. Why am my skin shedding? Why is this? Why is that? My mom would try to tell me things like, look, this is the old you shedding for the new you. You're going to get a new body for your man. Like, you're going to get a new body for yourself. You're going to get a new body. Like, this is you breaking through. This is you being reborn and rebirthed again. So I kind of took that, and I want to say I ran with it. So I embraced the fact that my skin was peeling. I embraced the fact that, I was going through all of those changes, because if that meant me getting, not me back, but me kind of getting into the swing of this new me and learning this new me, I have to be okay with this. And if I want relief, if I want a new life, this is what I have to go through. This is what I have to heal from, grow from, in order for me to have this new life that I want. So you guys, that is going to be the end of part 2. Part 3 will be coming soon. And as you guys know, if you did relate to this, or if you do feel me, please make sure you give this video a like. Either share or comment down below. As you guys know, this helps my channel grow. And I hope to see you guys soon. Ciao. Hello, my YouTube family. I hope you guys are doing well and you are ready for part 2 of my mental health journey. So in the previous video,